The world can seem like a pretty dark place sometimes. A lot of bad news all the time, it can seem like. It's just constant bad news. So when there is a story that can legitimately bring everyone together, that tends to stand out.
It started with a misdirected text message and ended with strangers coming together over Thanksgiving dinner.
I had no idea this was going to happen.
In 2016, Jamal got an invite from a grandma to go to Thanksgiving. There was a little case of maybe the wrong number there. There's the information on what time and when to show up for the feast. The thing is, the guy Jamal who got this text message, it wasn't from his grandma. It was from a woman named Wanda. Now, after realizing the mistake, Jamal asked for a plate of food anyway. And Wanda responded with, well, of course you can, because that's what grandmas do. They ate together on Thanksgiving and have every year since then. But this year, there will be one less person at the table. Wanda's husband, Lonnie, passed away from the coronavirus just this last week. Now, I've been shocked when I talk to people about the virus, and they don't know anyone who's gotten sick, or anyone who's been hospitalized, or anyone who has died. I was hanging out with a friend this past week, and I was telling her that another mutual friend of Kelly and I's, they were supposed to have a wedding that weekend, and they didn't. And my friend asked, well, why didn't they have the wedding? What happened? I'm like, well, they both got COVID. And she's like, oh, how were they doing? And I'm like, well, they got COVID and they both died. That's why they're not getting married. And so, when I see stories like this, I hope they remind people that people are still getting sick and people are still dying. And it makes me so, as horrible as it is, it makes me wonder if people are going to finally take this seriously. Because a lot of people remember this story. A lot of people remember what happened with this family. And it was a great story, Yeah, Kelly, do you remember this from back in the day?
Yeah. I mean, I think it was, this great heartwarming story that, we all saw. It's two average Americans, a very average situation going into, just texting to the wrong number. So I think it's something we could all connect with. And I think that's kind of why this hits home, her losing her husband and, them having to hold their Thanksgiving to get together earlier so that they, wouldn't expose each other's families, after to the same extent. It's sad. There's, like you were saying to me, it's wild at this point that someone could say they didn't know anybody who had been sick or hadn't gotten it or hadn't died. I don't know anyone personally who's died, but again, quite a few people, just outside of our circle of friends, I know quite a few people who have, especially people my parents' age, their group of friends. My dad knows 6 people with it right now, all from different groups, none of them related at all. Aside from that, I know, those people of those that I know, I saw, I think 3 people within 2 days on social media, say that they had it. At this point, I've known quite a few people who've had it, and it's run the full gamut. Some people didn't have any problems at all. Some people got really, really sick. And then, like you said, a couple of people just, friend of a friend I've seen die. We had another friend who passed away from pneumonia during this, and I think that's something that doesn't get talked about as much right now as it did at the beginning of this. But I think we should start talking about it again as hospitals fill up. We are going to see more people die from preventable illnesses. we are going to see people not getting the treatment they need, and it's going to cost lives.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I mean, we're in free for all right now on the coronavirus, and I think that we're going to see it get a lot worse through this holiday season. And I think, again, it's going to cost lives, not just those people infected with the coronavirus, but people with preventable illnesses.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things. You think about this story, and you think as the United States, as we pass, 250,000 deaths of the coronavirus. I mean, there are 250,000 people that have died, and all those people have, their husbands, their wives, their brothers, their sisters, their aunts and uncles. And so this scene, as it's being played out here with a empty chair with a picture, is something that's going to happen at the tables of millions and millions and millions of families this Thanksgiving. And it just shocks me that there's still this debate over, should we have Thanksgiving? Should we get together? They're trying to urge people to not get together. And I'm like, that's just a slap in the face to the millions of people that are now, missing someone because of this pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible the number of people, that have died. When this began, looking at the figures way back in March, I was predicting we were going to see, at least 300,000 deaths by the end of the year. And now we're, when I was saying that, people were acting like I was crazy. But, now we're on track for that. And, it's an awful thing to be right about. There's just, like you said, I mean, there's so much personal pain wrapped up in 250,000 Americans dead. Many, many more left with debilitating illnesses. Not just people who've been sick for weeks, but people who are still having cognitive issues, people who are still having breathing problems. I mean, there's a lot more to it than just those deaths. This affects massive numbers of people, and I think we're at a point where we can't afford to be cavalier about it.
No, and it always shocks me when I look at the maps of the maps of our coronavirus so far in the outbreak, and you look at the numbers, in March when we kind of first shut down, March, April, and you look at the spike there, and that looks like nothing compared to the spike, in July and June when there was the other spike at the beginning of the summer. And that both of those look nothing compared to the spike we're looking like we're going to face now. And so as we head into the winter and as we head into the holiday season, it's not looking good. I saw recently, and I remember when you made that prediction, and I kind of thought that was, I don't know, man. I didn't want to believe it. And now I've seen that they're projecting that by March we'll have hit like either 400 or 450,000 deaths.
Yeah,
is what's expected.
Yeah, it's just it's incredible that this is happening. In modern times. It seems like something out of the past. I think for a lot of people, it seems like it can't be real, and maybe that's why some people have so much trouble coming to terms with it. Maybe that's why people are treating this, like it's a hoax or no big deal, because they just can't accept the idea that, this is so dangerous and is doing so much harm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a big factor in it. I can't help but, being a kind of a filmmaker a bit myself, and, you watch Hollywood movies and you see all, the 2012 or you see Armageddon or you see the kind of things of like pandemics or like Contagion, or you see, and it just looks so much crazier in a movie, and it's almost like people can't deal with the realistic output, how things are working in reality, and so just want to like discount this virus.
Yeah, just because it's not the traffic stopping end of the world, doesn't mean we shouldn't just completely stop taking it serious. I mean, people. I think you're right. I think that people, they're saying it's not like Contagion. It's not like, one of these apocalypse end of the world movies. So it must be just like the flu, and it's simply not true. And, now with the number of cases, the number of deaths we're seeing, keep in mind that we know a lot more now about how to treat this. We know a lot more about how to care for patients with the coronavirus. So survival rates are a lot higher. So the fact that we're seeing so many deaths right now really should tell you how many cases we're having, how bad this is. Some of the positivity rates right now for testing are off the charts. They're just unbelievable.
Yep, absolutely. And it's one of those things. I think when the numbers started going up, I was encouraged. I saw articles, and the media's gotten a lot of flack for trying to embellish this. But the article that I've read pointed out that yes, the mortality rate when we first started the pandemic was 25%. You going to the hospital, you're probably gonna die. And now that's down to 9%, which is great. But as you look at these numbers, that was back in, that 25% category was back in March. We had like 30,000 cases a day. And now, just yesterday, there were 171,000 new cases of COVID-19. And so, even though the science has gotten better, at a certain point, there will be so many new cases that it just becomes unstoppable.
Yeah, and the way the American healthcare system works is a spillover system. This hospital's too busy, so they send patients to the next hospital or the next care center, or But if everywhere is busy at the same time, our original state by state solution, just kind of hoping it didn't sweep through the country too quickly, that it just all of our slow the surge, all of that kind of stuff, so that the hard hit parts of the country could rely on less hard hit parts of the country. I mean, now, the case numbers are so high everywhere that, we are going to start hitting that breaking point. We are already seeing it in some areas like El Paso, where they've brought in the National Guard and they're having them move bodies. We're seeing it here in Texas right now. Out in Amarillo, they're bringing in more and more, equipment to handle this surge, and things are bad, and I think they're about to get worse.
That's absolutely right, because as people make holiday plans and people want to get together, and the numbers are undeniably going to go up. And I do want to kind of leave all of you out there with this, and that's that, the coronavirus has forced us to kind of face some hard truths about, reality and, what we're all kind of doing in life, and, whether, you've lost your job, you had to do something else, if you're homeschooling kids now. There's a lot of things about American society that the coronavirus has kind of forced upon everyone to kind of come to grips with. And one of the things I want people to kind of realize out there is that these holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, traditional holidays that we all want to get together as a family, you have to remember that these are just days on the calendar, right? Like, don't wait till Thanksgiving, don't wait till Christmas to call your mom, to call your dad, to FaceTime when the pandemic is over. Try not to take those days for granted, right? Don't take your family for granted. Again, those are just days. You can try to see your family, or, when there's not a pandemic, anytime, right? So as much as it sucks, the idea of missing out on Thanksgiving and Christmas this year, if we're safe, then there will be one next year.
Yeah, we talked about the whole war on Thanksgiving and all of that. But yeah, I mean, it really is, if you really, it's not worth killing a family member over. It's, much less putting yourself in danger. It's not worth costing someone their life, somebody who's dear to you. So take this seriously. If you're going to see your family, quarantine before you go, quarantine after you get back. Take this really seriously, because cases are bad, and they're bad everywhere, and a lot of people aren't taking it seriously. So if you can't see them this year, you can't see them. Plenty of people who work in the service industry, work in news, various careers. We've missed holidays with our family. And we could tell you, life goes on. You could see them another time. You could call them on the phone. You can FaceTime them. It's not the end of the world to miss one or two holidays, especially if these are the stakes.
Absolutely. Couldn't have put it better, my friend.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you so much for watching Citizen Pete. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, click that little subscribe button, maybe the like button, and hey, maybe just leave a comment. I want to know what you're thinking. What do you think about all the politics, the news, and all the stuff that's going on in our country?